saying open the strait or it will be very bad. The real question is, what worse can happen to Iran now? So it seems clear that for Iran, keeping this strait closed for months is certainly possible. About 20% of the world's oil and gas supply passes through the Strait of Hormuz. Among the major suppliers are Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait, and Iraq. Among the top buyers are Japan, China, India, Pakistan, and many countries in Europe. Blocking this strait for a long period would mean the economies of Arab countries would fall rapidly, while China, Pakistan, and many European countries would face a severe shortage of oil, which could push prices to about $200 per barrel. In this whole scenario, pressure from Arab countries and other states would start increasing on the United States. America would have
Iran's Fateh-2 hypersonic missile, with its tremendous Mach 15 speed, instead of going straight toward Israel, challenges Earth's gravity and enters space, reaching an altitude of about 100 kilometers. But at that exact point, American satellites in space detect the heat signature of its engine, and at the same time, Israel's powerful Green Pine radars on the ground become active, which with their nearly 900-kilometer range, lock onto it from far away. Within a few seconds, they calculate exactly where Iran's Fateh-2 missile is going to land. When the Fateh-2 missile is in space, Israel fires its most advanced defense system, Arrow 3, which goes into space and attempts to intercept the missile there. If Iran's Fateh-2 missile escapes from that point, it begins re-entering Earth's atmosphere. As the next defense layer, David's sling comes into action. At the same time, the Sea Dome radar systems on Israel's corvettes present in the sea also active, while dozens of fighter jets are patrolling the skies, ready to destroy any missile or drone near the border. However, in most cases, the Fateh-2 manages to bypass all these defense systems and eventually reaches Israel.
If Iran fires 20 missiles toward Israel, you might be surprised to know how many, even on the 8th day of the war, the US and Israel have still not been able to stop Iran. The situation has now gone beyond just Israel and the United States. Iran has started targeting not only American oil tankers, but also British oil tankers present in the Strait of Hormuz. Iran has clearly stated that no oil tanker belonging to the US, Israel, or any European country will be allowed to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. The US claims it has destroyed around 24 Iranian naval vessels, but it has still failed to secure and clear this 24-kilometer wide passage. It may be true that the US has destroyed some of Iran's larger warships, but many people have still not seen Iran's so-called Mosquito Fleet. This Mosquito Fleet is nothing less than a nightmare for the US Navy. These are Iran's small, highly maneuverable, and extremely fast boats that can lay a deadly trap in the shallow waters of the Strait of Hormuz. Iran reportedly possesses more than 2,000 of these small boats, capable of moving across the sea at speeds of up to 110 kilometers per hour. These boats can launch hundreds of missiles and coordinated attacks, creating confusion for the enemy's defense systems about which threat to intercept first. And the story does not end there. If necessary, these same boats can also carry out suicide-style attacks by crashing into enemy ships and detonating themselves. This is the reason that even after the destruction of some major Iranian naval vessels, the US has still not been able to reopen. Over the past 24 hours, Iran has claimed to have shot down around 9 MQ-9 and Hermes drones belonging to Israel. Despite intense efforts by the US, the Strait of Hormuz remains closed so far. Iran has warned that if any naval vessel attempts to pass through this strait, it will be turned into ashes. Because of the closure of the strait, oil prices around the world are rising at an extremely rapid pace. These soaring oil prices have created such pressure on the US that Washington has decided to lift the sanctions previously imposed on Russian oil. After the removal of these sanctions, countries across the world will now be able to purchase oil from Russia, which could help stabilize global oil prices to some extent. However, this permission will only remain in place for 30 days. Meanwhile, Iran has carried out missile attacks on Israel using its Khaybar-Shekan and Khorramshahr missiles. These are among the Iranian missiles considered significantly different and far more powerful than others in Iran's arsenal in terms of payload capacity and technology. In addition to these missiles, Iran has also started deploying drone boats in the sea. A vessel in the Persian Gulf has reportedly been targeted using a remote-controlled boat filled with explosives. Russian media is also claiming that Iran used its drones to target the Abraham Lincoln. And after the alleged strike, the U.S. naval fleet reportedly moved much farther away from Iran. It's day 8 of this catastrophic war, and Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi delivered a bone-chilling message. Speaking to NBC News, when asked if Tehran fears a U.S. ground invasion, with a cold smile, he replied, "No, we are waiting for them. We can confront them, and it will be a big disaster for Washington." But while the talk of invasion grows, the region is already burning. Iranian ballistic missiles are bypassing defenses, pounding the heart of Tel Aviv and Ben Gurion Airport. The Arab Gulf is burning alongside them. Bahrain's capital has been struck by Iranian missiles and drones. The UAE was forced to intercept a staggering 131 drones in a single night, while massive U.S. bases in Qatar and Erbil are under constant siege. Israeli next phase strikes have killed over 1,230 Iranians, including a horrific attack on a school in Manab that left 171 children and staff dead. And the U.S., while the Pentagon admits to just 6 dead American soldiers, Iran's IRGC claims they've already slaughtered over 650.
How did Iran cleverly manage to capture America's $6 million drone without causing any damage? On December 4th, 2011, an American-made RQ-170 Sentinel drone, also known as the Beast of Kandahar, had already entered nearly 225 kilometers inside Iranian airspace. Its mission was to secretly monitor Iran's nuclear facilities and sensitive military locations. This was absolutely not an ordinary drone. Iran detects this drone. Iran very cleverly used an advanced electronic warfare technique called GPS spoofing. In simple words, Iran first jams its satellite link so that it disconnects from the American operator. Then surprisingly, Iran sends a fake and more powerful GPS signal, making the drone believe that it has reached its original base. As a result, the world's most advanced stealth technology-equipped drone lands safely on Iranian soil without any damage. At first, America says that the drone crashed due to a malfunction. But when Iran presents the video of this perfectly intact drone to the whole world, President Barack Obama says that this is our drone and asked for it to be returned, which Iran was not going to do. And by 2014, based on this very drone, Iran developed its own local version called the Shahed 171 drone. How did Iran cleverly manage to capture America's $6 million drone without causing any damage? On December, when Iran launches a missile toward Israel, that missile has to pass through several layers of defense. Now imagine that Iran launches a missile from its western border, and it is moving quickly toward Israel. The first stage happens if the missile passes near Kuwait. In that case, the U.S. defense systems stationed there at Camp Arif Jan, Ahmad al-Jaber Air Base, and Ali al-Salem Air Base will try to intercept it using Patriot and THAAD batteries. But if the missile does not pass near Kuwait, there are still U.S. defense systems in Iraq at Erbil Air Base and Al-Assad Air Base that can attempt to stop it. Now, suppose the Iranian missile manages to get past these defenses. The next area it enters is near Jordan, where the United States operates a major air base. This is the second phase. U.S. defense batteries at Mawafaq Salti Air Base will also try to intercept the missile. At the same time, the Israeli Air Force becomes fully alert. If the missile manages to get through this stage as well, Israeli fighter jets may attempt to intercept it in the air. On the other side, the U.S. fleet in the Mediterranean Sea, including the aircraft carrier USS Gerald R. Ford, can also launch missiles to stop it. If the missile still manages to survive all of this, it finally faces Israel's 3-layer air defense system. The first layer is the Arrow defense system, followed by David's Sling, and the final layer is the Iron Dome. Only if the missile successfully avoids all 3 of these defense systems can it finally reach and hit its target inside Israel. When Iran is it really true that the weapons stockpiles of America and Iran are rapidly running out? U.S. President Donald Trump claims that the United States has such a large stockpile of weapons that it can continue a war for a long time. But the ground reality is that weapons are being used very rapidly in this war. Israel and the United States have already carried out more than 2,000 attacks on Iran, while Iran has so far fired 571 missiles and 1,390 drones. In the first days of the war, Iran launched hundreds of missiles, but now this number is rapidly decreasing, and according to the U.S. military, Iranian ballistic missile attacks have decreased by about 85%. However, due to the continuous attacks,
for the first time since World War II, a warship has been sunk using a torpedo fired from a submarine. Look, an Iranian warship was returning to Iran after participating in a naval exercise in the Bay of Bengal organized by India. While the ship was sailing through international waters near Sri Lanka, it was suddenly struck by a torpedo. After the impact, the entire rear section of the ship was blasted upward into the air, and the vessel quickly began to sink into the sea. Following the torpedo strike, the Iranian naval ship sent out a distress call, which was received by the Navy of Sri Lanka. Sri Lankan rescue teams rushed to the scene and managed to rescue 32 people alive. Meanwhile, nearly 80 bodies have been recovered so far, and around 70 people are still reported missing. After this incident, a statement came from the United States claiming that it was their forces that struck the Iranian naval ship in international waters, a location where the vessel had believed it was safe. After hitting this target, the United States also claimed that during the ongoing war with Iran, it has destroyed around 20 Iranian naval ships so far. This marks the first time since World War II that a submarine has used a torpedo to sink a warship in combat. For the NATO is now directly involved in the Iran-Israel-US war as the conflict spirals out of control. The escalation reached a tipping point when an Iranian ballistic missile was detected heading straight for Turkish airspace. According to Turkey's defense ministry, NATO air defenses intercepted and destroyed the missile over Turkey's Hatay province. This marks the first time a NATO member state has been directly targeted in this conflict. Speaking to CNN, a NATO spokesperson officially condemned the attack, but the Western response doesn't stop there. France has now deployed its nuclear-powered aircraft carrier, Charles de Gaulle, toward the Mediterranean. President Macron has ordered a full naval strike group to lead a new international coalition aimed at breaking Iran's blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. The chaos is spreading even further. Just hours ago, suicide drones launched from Iran struck Nakhchivan International Airport in Azerbaijan, right on the...
How much damage Iran has caused to the United States in this conflict so far? Let's understand on the map. The biggest loss for American forces happened in Qatar, where the U.S. had installed a radar system called the FPS-132 radar. Iranian drones managed to bypass several layers of air defense and destroy this radar. The special feature of this American radar was that it could continuously detect Iranian ballistic missiles from long distances without needing to rotate. The second major loss for the United States happened in the UAE, in the area of Al Dhafra. The U.S. had deployed a THAAD air defense system there to help protect the UAE. The radar of this system, called the TPY-2 radar, was worth around $500 million. Iran also managed to destroy this radar. The third major loss happened in Kuwait, but this time it was not caused by Iran. Instead, it happened due to an accident involving U.S. allies in Kuwait. 3 U.S. Air Force F-15 Strike Eagle jets were mistakenly destroyed. Another loss for the United States occurred in Bahrain, where a GSC terminal was destroyed. This terminal was connected to satellites and served as a communication hub used by American forces to communicate with each other. Overall, Iran has caused the United States an estimated loss of around $2 billion so far. How much has America really destroyed an Iranian warship for the first time after World War II using a nuclear submarine? An American nuclear attack submarine fired a powerful Mk-48 torpedo and sank an Iranian warship, Iris Dina, in the Indian Ocean. The American defense minister has confirmed this attack, and the Pentagon has also released the video of this event. When the torpedo hits the ship, within a few seconds of the explosion, the rear part of the warship can be seen being destroyed in the video. The question arises, why did the Iranian ship not detect this submarine? About 180 people were on board this ship, out of which only 32 have been rescued so far, while dozens of people have been killed in this attack near Sri Lanka. And this ship was not on any war mission, but was returning from a naval exercise being held in India. Friends, this attack is also historically very important, because according to America, this has happened for the first time after World War II, that a submarine has sunk an enemy warship using a torpedo. But this is not true. World War II in 1971, a Pakistani submarine sank the Indian warship INS Kukri with a torpedo. Has America really Iran has turned one of the world's busiest airspaces into an empty hole with its missiles. You can see that after the joint attacks on Iran by Israel and America, Iran is not stopping. Iran's Revolutionary Guards, 20% of the world's oil passes through this same choke point, which is approximately 49 kilometers wide, because of which such a storm of inflation is going to come in the whole world that will even leave the 1973 oil crisis behind. The ground reality is that the war has spread. Donald Trump has clearly